Hi, I'm Pastor Don Thompson, and I serve at St. Luke's Anglican Church in Beaver Lodge. The background is not the church there, but is St. Mark's Anglican Church in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. I'm going to talk about daily offices and conclude talking particularly about a disciples' prayer book. Daily prayer has a long history within Christianity and uh, beyond that, even because our first Christians, to a large extent, came out of the Jewish religious tradition. And that tradition called their followers to prayer, to sing religious songs several times throughout the day. And from that developed the Christian practice of setting aside certain times of the day for prayer and song, especially the chanting of psalms. Now, some of these times of prayer were public or family services, while others were personal, individual devotion. The third, sixth, and ninth hours of the day, 9 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m., were associated with events during Jesus' Passion. And the church added to those two other hours of prayer: midnight, a time of praise for the God of all creation, and cockcrow or sunrise, a time to remember the disciples' denial of Christ and the hope of the resurrection. Eventually, Christianity was recognized in the Roman Empire, and this led to rapid growth of the church. At that time, religious practice in some ways split into two streams: the monasteries and the cathedrals. But in both streams, worship became more frequent and formal. Monasteries developed a pattern of liturgies based on reading scripture and the singing of psalms. These services were called offices. The daily offices were considered the work of God by those who prayed them. These were relatively austere services, meditative in their tone, and they were often led by monks who were not clergy. The monastery offices included the practice of reading the Bible straight through, as well as singing all of the Psalms very frequently, perhaps daily, weekly, or every 2 weeks. By the Middle Ages, the monasteries developed 7 daily offices said as a community in the chapel: matins, which was at midnight or cockcrow; lauds, the public morning service; prime at 6 a.m., terce at 9 a.m., sext at noon, non at 3 p.m., and vespers, the public evening service. Compline was said in the monks' private rooms just before retiring to bed. At the same time, things were developing in the cathedrals. The principal morning and evening services, called lauds and vespers, were held in a number of different congregations and included various readings and, again, the singing of songs, as well as intercessions and prayers. These liturgies grew to be rather elaborate. One resource I looked at described them: these very churchy, somewhat vulgar, clergy dominated services, with their incense, vestments, and rituals, have been memorably described as reasonably brief, colorful, ceremonious, odoriferous, that means smelly, and full of movement. When the Church of England broke from the Church of Rome, the offices were reduced to two services, morning and evening prayer. And these services drew elements from both the monastic and cathedral streams. A little bit later, during the Catholic revival in the Church of England, services for noon and night prayers were added. And our liturgies, our services continue to evolve. You can see this in our Book of Common Prayer, in our Book of Alternate Services, as well as in our supplementary liturgies found on the Anglican Church of Canada website. There's one document, the supplementary Eucharistic prayers, services of the word, and night prayer, as well another document, pray without ceasing, morning and evening prayer for the whole Christian year. Another resource has been developed by the Anglican Council of Indigenous People, and it's called a Disciples Prayer Book. There it is. Like the other resources of our church, our BCP, BAS, and online, it has liturgies, orders of service for in the morning, at noon, in the early evening, and at the close of day. There are different liturgies for each of the church seasons, and they can be used by individuals or by small groups. These liturgies focus on the gospel reading for the day and is also called gospel-based discipleship. The introduction says, gospel-based discipleship is not a program. It is not a Bible study. It is an encounter with the gospel designed to engage people with the gospel appointed for the day or for the Sunday proper. It depends on participants being willing to share responses to the three questions. What words or ideas did you hear? What is Jesus or the gospel saying to you? What is Jesus or the gospel calling you to do? Each liturgy follows the same format. There's a gathering prayer, a gathering psalm of praise. Then the gospel is read 3 times. After each time that the gospel is read, one question is asked. The first time, what word, idea, or sentence stands out for you in the gospel of the day? After the second reading, what is Jesus or the gospel saying to you? After the third reason, what is Jesus or the gospel calling you to do? Now, it's suggested that you use different translations of the Bible for each of the readings. It's not necessary, but it can help you hear what the scriptures are saying because different translations can use different words and give you different insights. If you're in a group, it is not desirable that you justify or explain your answer. You just share what you are hearing from God at that time. After the 3 gospel readings, there's a time of prayer. It's suggested that the Acts model be used. Prayer begins with adoration, moves into confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. There's a closing collect, and the liturgy ends with the Lord's Prayer. As I said, this can be done by yourself, in a small group, whether it's at the start of a meeting or a particular event. I'm using this resource and these liturgies at the start of our parish weekly Bible study. We take time to explore the gospel reading after the liturgy is finished. That book, A Disciples Prayer Book, can be downloaded from the Anglican Church of Canada website. And the web page there, called Gospel-Based Discipleship, includes that resource, as well as the gospel readings from the daily Eucharistic lectionary. The online Anglican Church of Canada lectionary page has those readings, as well as another daily office lectionary. And both of these lectionaries are found at the back of our Book of Alternate Services. Printed copies of a Disciples Prayer Book may be available through the Diocesan Synod Office. So that is a very brief introduction. I certainly find spending time in scripture and prayer, which the daily offices do, very beneficial for my spiritual well-being. And a Disciples Prayer Book is a very easy, short way that you can do this either individually or in a group. If you have trouble finding these resources, or just want to discuss this topic more, please feel free to contact me, the Reverend Don Thompson. My phone number is 204-868-0378. My email is my name, Don D. Thompson @gmail.com, or you can reach out through your parish clergy person. May you have a blessed week, a fruitful remaining season of Lent, and a joyful Easter season. Walk with God.